Well, I've come here today to do a bit more method feeder fishing, because why not? It is definitely the most fun you can have with your clothes on. That will never change. And today I've got something really special to show you. And no, it's not me with my clothes off. It's a new Camo Method Feeder that we spent quite a long time designing and testing. And it's one of them products that I've just fallen in love with. Well, the main premise of a method feeder is to get that bait down on the lake bed, get that bait down on the bottom and get the fish feeding hard up against the feeder. And you can only do that if you choose the right bait. In tackle shops, there's a plethora of different ground baits and pellets, and lots of them will work on the method feeder, but they haven't been designed for it. There's a reason that certain baits say sticky or method on them, and that's because they're designed to stick to that feeder. My first choice has always been the Sony Match Method Mix. They sell absolutely pallet loads of this stuff. It's got to be the most popular method feeder ground bait in the world, easily. And this new version with some marine pellets in it, slightly oilier, is going to work great on this lake where it's a little bit siltier and the water's nice and warm. It's midsummer now, so that's going to do me a treat. It's really easy to mix as well. I'll show you how to do that in a minute. And I'm also going to have a go with pellets. I do like pellets on the feeder, and some days, for whatever reason, pellets work better than the ground bait, and it tends to be the cooler days where pellets really come into their own. Again, look for that mark, sticky. Put a little compound through these, that means they really do stick to the feeder. They're absolutely fantastic, and I normally go for a 2 mil, but if there's lots of small fish in the lake, you can go up to a 4 mil. Now, using 4 mils on the method feeder means you need a really good feeder, but luckily I've got one of those. So when I'm mixing my pellets, I try not to mix too many pellets at one time. I find they turn out much better if you just take a 2-pint bait tub, sort of half fill it with your pellets and then pour your water on top. Now for 2 mil pellets, what I'm going to do is soak them for 2 minutes. The 4 mils I'd soak for 4 minutes, and then I want to drain off all the excess water. Leave them for 4 or 5 minutes and they'll be perfect and ready to go straight on the feeder, straight in the mould, straight in the pond. Well, this might look like one of them trendy mesh caps that the Korum lads told me to do, but it's actually a very, very essential product for mixing your ground bait. It's a little riddle. So this EVA bowl, I've got all my dry mix, and what I'm going to do is add water to that till it's almost like a cake mix. I want it to be almost paste-like, and then I'm just going to leave it for sort of 5 minutes or so, let all this ground bait, this lovely ground bait, just soak up that water. And when I've finished, I can push my cake mix through the riddle. I'm going to end up with the perfect method mix. So when it comes to choosing hook baits for the method feeder, you want to keep things small and dainty. The fish are going to come in and try and eat all that bait on the method feeder in one go. So keep it small and keep it simple. Bright baits can work very well on the days. So baits like sweet corn are a must. And of course, these dinky little wafters are irresistible. And the fact that they're semi-buoyant means they'll fly into the fish's mouth even better than a sinking bait. But some days you've got to match the hatch. A little pellet or something that's almost the same as what you've got on the feeder can be absolutely perfect. And of course, if they're being fussy or you want to single out a big one, it's time for the meat. Well, who remembers these? The original flatbed Korum method feeder. It was the first of its time, designed in Andy Finley's kitchen. Famous match angler Andy Finley, he wasn't happy with the method feeders that were like a great big cannonball. It used to sound like shotguns going off as they landed in the water, badoosh! Of course, for match fishing, they want to be quick and efficient and get more bites, and that's what the flatbed feeder was all about. Having a weight on one side and all the bait on the other side, with the hook bait sitting in the top like a little cherry on top of a cake. But that was his original design. Can you believe we managed to source some of these from a friend of Korum who still had a load of these in his garage? It really is a bit of history, that it's a bit of Korum's museum, as it were. A nice thing to remember. But of course, things have moved on quite a bit since then. Let's take a look at the evolution of the Korum flatbed feeder. So from that original feeder, match fishing completely transformed. It used to be all about pole fishing, and then it became all about the method. And Korum's sister company, its parents company, Preston Innovations, designed this, a flatbed method feeder with a bit more finesse, a bit of camo, again, an evolution of the design. Well, for Korum fishing, for what we were doing, sort of pleasure fishing, lakes like this, fishing for longer than 5 hours and often fishing for bigger fish, these feeders just weren't man enough. So we designed the Korum Dura method feeder. We still sell this today, we still sell lots of them, and people really love how aerodynamic they are and of course how hardy they are. The whole thing is made of metal. The entire thing is made out of metal. It's affordable, it flies like a dream because of the forward nose weighting. It's brilliant, but we've gone another step further. And these new Camo Method Feeders are just about as good as it gets. They're quick change, which enables you to change between weights and sizes and different types of leads and feeders within the Korum range. Let's get them wet, let's chuck them in the pond and go and catch some fish. So there we go, new Camo Method Feeder. I'm going to start with a 30 gram, because I'm not chucking very far, I'm just using a little 10-foot phase one. It's nice and soft tip. There's quite a lot of carp in this lake and they're all about 3-4 pound. There are a few big zoo creatures as well, a few doubles. I reckon I can get them out on that. Short hook length, that's very important. We'll talk more a little bit on that in a minute. And the rest of it is just as it normally is with the method feeder. Use your mould. Again, the Camo methods come with a brilliant new mould. And what I'm going to do to make sure my mould presents my bait exactly where I want it, I put quite a bit of ground bait in first, and then I lower in my pellet. I've just put a little 4mm pellet on there, not too big a bait to start with. A little bit more bait. Push the feeder inside like so. When I'm opening up, I absolutely pucker. Let's see if these carp are hungry. There's plenty of fizzers out in the middle of the lake. Let's get one on the end of the line. So one of the things that makes a Camo Method feeder much different to our Dura Method feeder and lots of other feeders is the fact that I can quickly change it. So this stem goes through the middle. There's no tail rubber or anything like that. That's an all-in-one system. So I can take off the 30-gram feeder that I've been using this morning. It's quite silty out there. I'm not casting very far. The fish are actually a lot closer than I thought they'd be. So I'm going to swap it for the 20-grammer. It's got a little slot in the back. It's just a case of pulling that stem in through the middle. I'm fishing again within seconds. How easy is that? Now, if I want to cast a little bit further, of course, I could put a 45 gram or a 60 gram on that and chuck it out to fish that I can see further out in the lake. Really, really easy. I haven't got to bite off any gear. I haven't got to start again. I'm ready to go fishing again. Well, there you go. There's loads of them to be caught today. Method feeder doing the business almost straight away. Well, one of the keys when you're method feeder fishing to get a consistent run of bites is to pick a far bank marker. And for me, it's a set of reeds over on that other bank. So each cast, I'm trying to land it in exactly the same place. But of course, you can use a line clip to do that. But you can also just cast out and just stop it, just sort of feather it down into the water. Try and make sure that that method feeder lands quietly, right where you've been feeding the fish. If you keep casting it to lots of different places, you'll spread that shoal of carp around, you'll spread that shoal of bream or tench around, and you just won't get as many bites. And certainly you won't get them as quickly, one after the other. Here, it's quite clear now, the fish want to feed in one particular place. And as long as my method feeder lands in that hole, we get a bite really quick. Looks like another little common is absolutely full of it. That clutch was set pretty tight. I didn't think he'd got the minerals to take that off there, but he did. Just a great way to catch fish on day ticket venues. You know, the match guys fish like this for a reason. It's quick, it's effective, and it catches a lot of fish. Another little gem. Where's your mother? Well, I don't know how many fish I've caught, but I know that most of that ground bait that started in that bowl is nearly gone. We've caught absolutely loads of these today. It's been awesome fun. And the method feeders have definitely helped me catch a few fish, because rather than having to take everything apart and, you know, slide on a new feeder, tie a new quick change bead, put another rig on, all I had to do to get more bites was quickly change it with the quick change slot from a 30 gram to a 20 gram. And fishing on top of the silt, it's worked an absolute dream. I can't wait to get out and use this a little bit more in my fishing. I think I will definitely be using it on the river for a couple of places I've joined this year, where a method feeder could just be the one for a nice big barbel. It's definitely going to come in handy for lots of fun days catching carp just like this. Well, something that I mess around with quite a bit when I'm method feeder fishing is where I put the hook bait. Now for me, the whole premise of a flatbed method feeder is that hook bait being sat like a cherry on the cake. But sometimes having the hook bait exposed or even outside of the feeder doesn't work. And what happens is you get a lot of line bites where the fish are literally feeding on the feeder and not around the feeder. And some days in different depths of water, you can experiment. So today I started off kind of burying the hook bait inside the feed. So I'd put quite a lot of bait in the mould before I put my hook bait in. But for the last couple of casts, I've just put a little bit less bait in before I've put the pellet in. And that seems to have made a difference, getting bites a little bit quicker from some very hard fighting fish. And it's something you should think about, you know, every time you go method feeder fishing. You should be consistently swapping hook baits, thinking about the size of the hook you're using, and even the strength of the line of your hook link. Because if the hook link's too strong, its stiffness will cause it to bounce out away from all the feed, and you don't want that. You want the fish to come in and eat it all in one go. And that's one of the great things about the method. It feels like, oh, you're fishing the same way all day, but you're not really. You can adapt to the conditions, you can adapt to the fish in the lake and the different species that you're trying to catch as well. And doing that has caught me absolutely plenty today. Loads of these bronze gems today. I don't even know what that is, and I don't really care. Something that's really important for the method feeder, and it might go against anything you've ever learned about feeder fishing really, especially if you fish flowing water a lot. The hook link for a method feeder rig to be effective has got to be really short, but if you tie them yourself, 2.5 to 3 inches can be absolutely perfect. But for most of my fishing, I just use some of the ready tied hook links that you can get, Korum quick stop hair rigs, something like a Preston banded hair rig. They're ideal really, they're the perfect length, tied out a nice strong but low diameter line, nothing with too much memory, something that's going to be soft and just curl round into the feeder nicely. And because I've got that quick change bead on there, it's really simple for me to change rigs. You know, if this gets damaged during the fight, I can swap it for another one. I can swap between a band or a quick stop or just a normal hair rig depending on the bait I want to use. The great thing about this whole system now is it's all quick change. Everything's about speed. So whether I'm fishing for an hour, 5 hours or 2 days, doesn't really matter, does it? I'm making the most of every moment to get as many fish on the end of my line as I can. And I shall go home today a happy bunny with a nice wet net. Well, these fish are pulling my arm off today. It's been magic. The sun's come out and it doesn't seem to matter how often I cast this feeder out or what I put on the end. I'm getting bites, but there's definitely certain hook baits and certain rigs where I'm catching more fish than just sitting here waiting. And sometimes when you're fishing like this and there's lots of fish to catch, it's the difference between catching a dozen fish and just a couple. So if you're going to go out and try the method feeder on your next session, which you really should, it's just such an ace way to fish. Make sure, keep your brain ticking over, make those quick changes. You're sure to have a belting day with loads and loads of bites. Well, we've been catching little crackers today, but I didn't expect a little fully scaled. This lake's full of sort of brown goldfish, F1s, carp. There's carp in here from loads of different year groups, but that is an absolute beauty. Pulled my arm off on the little phase 1 rod, and catching fish like this all day on the method, like I said before, you can't beat it.